I don't know when this whole process turned into a podcast, but I'm definitely not surprised that sometimes you create something, and because you don't know where it's going to end up, you start to take this journey, and when you get to your destination, you're like, wait a minute, I literally just created something I had no intention on creating, but here it is anyway. So what am I talking about? So Streets by Fuji. I'm actually going to call this entire segment, and what this really is just me sharing my own experiences on the street, not just with how I operate with the lenses and the equipment that I'm using, like the 56mm. I've been using the 56mm since I've had it for a few years, but I'm just saying since I've started the street photography, this has been the go-to lens for 80% of the pictures I've taken with it, with those street folks. And a lot of people would argue, not that I really care, but a lot of people would say, hey, why would you use a lens that's so slow, that has such a long throw? Because you really can't get a full person's body from so close with the 56mm. I probably need at least 7 or 8 feet of space to get those shots of someone's entire body. And even when I get those shots, it's not exactly set up for Instagram sizing. Instagram, you probably need another foot above and a foot below, so when it crops in, you don't lose anything. So there's a lot of reasons why a lens that's so tight, that's made for portraits, is, in most people's mind, not ideal for street photography. I use it because it gives me an instantaneous look that most people are attracted to. People like the out of focus background. People like the clarity of it, brings in a lot of light. People also like the fact that the lens renders their skin a certain way. Like, a lot of things are different with every lens you use. Some lenses are very obvious in terms of the sharpness, in terms of the details, in terms of the fine things that people may not want to see on their face or on their skin. Other lenses, because they have like a little bit of a glow to them, and the glow comes from, with the 56mm, it comes from the brightness of the lens. But people like the glow, and their skin actually looks amazing. So there's a couple of reasons why people like the lens. And I'm sticking with the lens for now. I don't see any reason why I should stop sticking with it. I think that you have to push yourself to get certain results and to get certain responses from your customer. So, but something else I wanted to talk about too, this 50mm, or what Fuji calls their 35 1.4, and some people call it the legendary lens. It's small, it's really insignificant to a lot of people, but it is I'm upside down, it's kind of funny. Yeah, it is a small lens, but it's actually very, very unique in the way it creates images. So what I want to do now, and we're going to talk about this, is within the next couple of weeks, use just this lens for 90% of my pictures on the street. Another thing I want to talk about too, as it relates to Fuji, Streets by Fuji, because that's really what this podcast is going to be called now. It's literally my experiences on the street with Fuji. I'm going to ask other photographers too, their opinions, those who are on the street, those who are not using Fuji, and how they're able to deliver the images to their customers. So I want to use this lens the next couple of weeks, and I want to use a custom preset that I'm going to make for this camera, for the streets, for a particular look that I'm looking for. And what I'm going to tell you guys right now, the look I'm looking for is something that looks saturated, but still vintage. And possibly what Fuji's doing now with the Reala film simulation, which is not a new look. It's new to digital cameras, but Reala was a film simulation that was used years ago with Fuji cameras. I want to create this recipe that I'm going to be using for all my images, not just so I can have a unique look, but sometimes you want to experiment with things to see the results and to see what you could potentially do. Because one of the things about Times Square, where I've been shooting a lot of my pictures, there's so many lights around, and I can give you guys an example here, that it creates a certain look on the face. Like it can make people look really blue. It can make people look really red. It just messes up the shot. Sometimes you want a person's skin tone to come out, but because of the lights that are flashing and changing every couple of seconds, you either have to wait or you have to take the shots again. So as you can see from, I'm looking at the side here on my screen, you can see from all the different lights I'm popping on my face that it creates a certain look that you don't want unless you're experimenting with stuff. But I do intend to use this light probably around Christmas time, probably around the new year, who knows, to create special effects while I'm taking images. How that's gonna be done has to be remain to be seen. So for right now, that's the focus.